Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Roy Bjellquist, and welcome to Remembering Science Fiction Television Shows of the 1960s and the 1970s. I'm very excited to have with me today is my special co-host, Miss Suzanne Heimer Peterson, who was Barbara Bain's stand-in for years 1 and year 2 of Space 1999. Hi, Suzanne. How are you today?
Yeah, good. How are you, Roy?
Oh, I'm doing better, Suzanne. Thanks.
Good.
Yeah.
Welcome to the UK and lockdown. I can't leave the house and it's hell. It's hell. But anyway, it's okay. It's all right.
Well, I'm glad you're doing good. You look wonderful. And it's so nice to have you on as my special co-host for this week and for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know everyone is really excited and happy to see you, and especially the people that actually got to see you last year at Breakaway 2019. It's really hard to believe that it's almost been 8 months since that convention that took place. And I just wanted to introduce you to them again, and then also the fans of the series that haven't seen you in a while. So everybody, just welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's really, and thank you for being here on this special time too. In the UK, it's actually 10 p.m. right now, right, Suzanne?
That's right. Past my bedtime.
Thanks for taking the time to be with me.
No, that's okay. That's fine. I feel much better since when I was on the convention last year. I feel better now than I did then. I was in a lot of pain, and I don't know whether you knew that, Roy, but so I'm on top form now.
Well, that's good. No, I know you had a lot of stuff going on and everything is good. So that's wonderful that you're doing so much better.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you know, Isabella's out there and she's saying hello. And
hi, Isabella.
And also David Balter is out there. He's saying hello as well too. And Joe Serena, hey, thanks for joining us. Really good to see you guys out there. So before we get started, I do have, a lot of things I want to cover with you, but before we start talking about Space 1999, I wanted to ask you about how you actually got involved in the film and television industry.
Well, my mother was a rank starlet in the 40s, and she was an actress. And that's actually how I got into it. I started to do something different, and I became ill when I was young. And I had to do something, so I decided to do modeling, and that's how I started. I did photographic modeling, and how I started it, that when they wanted to have specials on a film, like, I don't know, like the Casino Royale film, they asked for specials from like models. So, and that's really how I started. And my mother said, why don't you just do that? And that's what I did. And I started out, and I just used to do commercials and things like that. And then, I doubled for and stood in for Lynn Redgrave on a film called Smashing Time, which was in the 60s. That's the first thing I did. Crazy times.
Oh,
it was fun. So that's exactly how I started. And it went on from there, really. And we all, when you're young, you all had such a great time doing it. Right. So it was great. It was lovely.
So that's really awesome. So you really probably got to work with a lot of interesting people and a lot of well-known people then.
I did. I met quite a few people too through my mother, because my mother was very friendly with quite a few well-known artists. So that's and I met a lot of people too. So that's what she started in. So that's why she asked me she said to me, why don't you do that? And so I was young, I was a teenager, so I thought, why not? So that's how I started.
So the other thing I want to ask you is what shows did you actually work on prior to Space 1999? What television shows, films besides Casino Royale? Because you just mentioned Casino Royale, and that was the James Bond spoof, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. David Niven.
Yes, that's right.
David Niven. Was it Ursula Andress?
Okay.
Yeah, I think she was in it. I can't remember, but all I can remember is we worked at Shepperton Studios, and we were for, oh gosh, it must have been 3 months. We must have done about 2 days work, and the whole time we were out sunbathing on the lot. So it was fun, you know, and we used to go out at night and come straight to the studios in the morning. Really had a good time. So that's one of the first ones. I'm trying to think before Space. I do you know, I can't remember before Space. After Space, I mean, I worked on a lot of things before, but I really cannot remember before.
Yeah, but that's so cool that you worked on that movie, because I know there's a lot of James Bond fans out there. So
yeah,
definitely have to check that out and take a look at that.
I also worked on another James Bond film where I stood in and doubled for, oh God, I can't think of her name. The one that was the actress that was married to Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, okay. That was Cassandra Harris.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that would have been For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah, I worked on that. And stood in for her on that. And yeah, and there was a couple of other things that I worked on.
How did you become involved with Space 1999?
Sorry?
How did you become involved with Space 1999?
Oh, well, I got a call one day from a friend of mine who was the second assistant director. And he said to me, I'm doing this television series. Would you interested in doing it? And I said, well, what is it? And he said, it's at Pinewood. And that's when my son was a little boy. So, you know, I knew it was going to be a long series and it was regular money coming in. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So I went down there and saw them before it started. And that's how I got onto Space. So that was it. But yeah.
That's really awesome to hear. I mean, and Justin, I mean, also has a lot of memories of Space 1999 too, because I mean, I remember speaking to him about that, and you know, just as far as being in the sets and everything. So that really had to be cool, especially as a youngin'. I know there's a lot of Space 1999 fans out there that would love to have been on those sets, and you know, we all wonder about how it actually would have been.
Yeah, well, he loved it. He, you know, if during the summer holidays, if I didn't have anybody to look after him, I just used to bring him down to the studios with me, and he used to go on the cameras, and he used to go here and there and everywhere. This is when he was a little boy. He's now 50. But he's got great memories. He loved it. He you know, often films that I worked on, I used to take him with me if I didn't have any, during the holidays anyway, the school holidays.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that had to be really cool. I mean, just to think about, you know, being on those sets and everything, it's probably like a dream of everybody, especially the Space 1999 fans. But even putting aside just being on a movie set, I mean, you know, you were on, you know, the James Bond sets, and then, you know, so the other things that you've done too.
Mm-hmm.
Give a shout out. Justin is actually out there. Hey, Justin, thanks for joining us. Very nice to see you out there. Also want to say hi to Andrew. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. Andrew's joining us from Australia. Hope you're doing well. Hi to Isley Richardson. Thanks again for being here. So Isabel's saying that she's very jealous that she didn't get to be on those sets.
Oh. Well, she'll have to meet Justin, and Justin can tell her all about it.
No, that is so awesome. So in regards to the show, now getting to Space 1999, do you have any special memories about, like, you know, the sets and how they looked? I mean, there's a lot of fans out there that love the Eagles and everything. Well,
the Eagle was just sort of like it was just sort of half of it, and then the cameras were looking into it. So it was the main set, the main mission. That was an amazing set. Mm-hmm. That really was. That was one of the best, I think. You know, and all the corridors and everything. So that was good. I can't remember what was when I was speaking to you last, Roy, and you said about On the Moon.
Yes,
that was. I do remember that because I doubled on that set in the spacesuit.
So
which
you actually got dressed up in that spacesuit.
it was horrendous.
Yeah.
Horrendous, because once it was so hot, and though I don't know what it's like nowadays, but those days it were big arc lamps, and it made the set so hot, really hot. And if it was in the summer, like that summer that was really hot when we were working, it was horrendous, because you'd wear the thing over your head, you'd wear the padded suit, you've got this vest, and then you put that globe thing on the helmet. It was horrible. I mean, I don't know how they stood it doing that. I mean, I did that several times, doubling for Barbara, doing that. I hated it, absolutely hated it. I really, one time I couldn't get it off, and I quite started panicking. But
interesting, at the Breakaway 2019 convention last year, the spacesuit that Nick wore in the series was actually brought there, and
yes, I saw it.
Which was really, really cool. And that was, just to put that helmet on and just, have it down. I mean, when you scenes and everything and what have you, I could see how it was extremely hot. So I mean, just having to bear up under that, and as far as being as a stand-in, they're doing everything with the lighting and everything, and making sure that everything is
that wasn't so bad for standing in. That was when I was doubling. When I was standing in, I didn't have to put that on.
Oh, that's good then.
I had to put that on. It was only when I was doubling for Barbara that I had to do that. But I hated it. I really hated it. Awful.
I think all of us Space 1999 fans would have loved to have had that opportunity to walk on the moon, though.
Well, it was only a bit of dust. It wasn't anything special, that set. It really wasn't.
It's all done through the magic of movie making. That's just so cool.
It is.
And the one thing you hear too is, and it's funny, years ago, I remember when I was in high school, there was a show that was on, and it was called Dancing on Air. And it was on Philadelphia, Channel 17, and was like on at 4:00 in the afternoon. Used to happen was, they would literally have these kids dancing on the set, and they would be playing their music, almost like a bandstand type of show that Mark used to do. And as a project for school, for like a field trip or whatever it was, we got to go actually to the set, and it was so small, and everybody was like really surprised how small actually like a movie is. It's just that when you're seeing it on television and the camera, it looks so big, and to actually be there was like, and that was back in like 1982, going to that. So yeah,
they weren't big, the sets. I mean, inside the Eagle, I mean, it wasn't big, it was small. And then you had the corridors, and there were only a few corridors, but it looked as if it was, really big.
Right.
The main mission was a fair size. That was quite big, but that was the best set out of all the sets, I think.
And it's funny, anybody that worked on that series, everybody seems to say the same thing about that set was just so impressive.
Yes,
it was almost like it was grand. However, one of the things I heard was that the lighting was really tough as far as making sure everything was lit properly, and a lot of scenes took a long time. Yeah,
it was very hot on the. I keep going back about how hot it was, but honestly, with those big arc lamps, they were. I'm sure it's different nowadays. I don't know how they, how they like a set now. I'm sure it's all different. I mean, that was donkey's years ago. So but no, it was fun.
No, that's wonderful. David Lafendo is actually David. I'm butchering your name, and I'm sorry about that. But David, hey David, thanks for joining us. He's saying smaller sets, easier to light, lenses do the heavy lifting. Yeah, I mean, it's all about economics, and then making things a lot more convenient. And with the second season of Space 1999, they got away from that main mission set and they actually had the command center, and he had really the one side of it that you mostly saw. And if they ever did like a reverse, you essentially just have the desks, the command console switch around to make it look like that fourth wall was actually there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, and I remember, I think Nick had mentioned too, and then I think also some other people, in 1976, that was probably one of the hottest summers on record in the UK.
This is the I'm talking about. It was horrendous.
Yeah.
It was, I just don't know. Oh God, I hated it. It was horrible. It was really horrible. And how they were in those you know, in the costumes, because it's synthetic material. Right. So you perspired with it. It you know, the material didn't breathe, and you're in those thick costumes. Have you got one, Roy? Have you got a top?
Do I? No. Actually, what I do, I actually have a Charles Gordon made a
oh yes, yeah, he's brilliant.
He makes the replica of the regular uniforms and also jackets from the second season. His work is incredible, and actually do have that, and it's very hot. I mean,
yeah. Well, the original ones, which I'm sure a lot of guys have, you know, a lot of you guys out there have got them. That, you know, they wear them, and okay, it's okay, but they are hot. Excuse me, I've got to have a drink.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, it's tea. It's not vodka.
That's okay.
Sorry about that. My throat's dry.
No, that's okay. No, but getting back to that though, yeah, I mean, just being under the studio lights in general is just something that really, you know, is, you know.
Yeah, it was horrendous, especially that summer. Everybody was going, I mean, people were passing out. It was so hot.
Yeah, and especially if there were electrical problems and if the air weren't going. God. I remember hearing those stories as well too.
Yeah, it was a terrible, terrible time. Terrible.
Oh, just want to say Francine is actually saying hello. She's saying hi out there to you, Suzanne. And Marianne is also saying hello too.
Who?
Marianne.
Oh, Marianne. Hi, Marianne. How are you?
So one thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, Space 1999 really had a very diverse amount of actors, you know, guest starring actors on the show. Yeah. So is there anybody that specifically comes to mind, or that, you know, you enjoyed working with specifically?
The first that comes to mind, Peter Cushing.
Oh, wow.
Peter Cushing was the most delightful man. I mean, I worked with him before on one of the Hammer films, as I did with Christopher Lee. And oh, excuse me, my voice is going. But Peter Cushing, he was such a lovely, lovely human being. He was a delightful man, absolutely delightful. No airs or graces, just absolutely lovely, really was. And Christopher Lee, Joan Collins, I'm trying to think who else. Remind me, Roy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Judy Geeson was a guest star.
Oh, Judy Geeson. Yeah.
She was actually at the Alpha 2012 convention that was in LA.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, she came out it was about 8 years ago, and everybody got to see her. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing too. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, like you were saying, because they did the Hammer films. I mean, those films, I mean, Dracula, and then, you know, Frankenstein. I mean, those were the horror movies that, you know, like.
Yeah, they were. And they were made at Ray Studios. That's where they were made.
Okay.
And, wonderful studio. It was so lovely, that studio. It was small, but I remember the first time I met Christopher Lee is when I was down there, and I don't know I can't remember what I was doing. It was where he was one of the horror films. I can't remember which one it was.
Well, he did so many.
Oh, we know when he was Rasputin, when he was very tall, very tall man. Is that Rasputin?
It might have been.
It? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, I was coming up the stairs and he was coming down. It frightened the life out of me because he was all in costume. It was really quite scary. but anyway, no, yeah, they used to do a lot, and that was the Hammer films were made at Bray Studios, which is no longer, unfortunately.
Yeah. So was Bray Studios close to where Pinewood is located, Suzanne?
Not too far from Pinewood. No, not too far. Bray was near Windsor.
Okay.
Yeah, it was near Windsor, Bray Studios. But it's in that sort of area. There's Bray, and then, you know, if you went the village of Bray, you go on to Maidenhead, and then you could go to Pinewood round the back way. So it's all in that area, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, when for the Alpha 2014